Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Monoxide Podcast. I'm your host, Harris, a.k.a. Monoxide, man of many automotive aspirations, and I'm here with my Ford-loving co-host, Dan, Mr. Gunna Garage.
That's right.
Today, we have a returning guest. So we are back we're back in Las Vegas for SEMA, and last year, we had 4 guests on in a span of 8 hours in one day, which was absolutely chaos. And today, we have Simon Sigier of CJ Motorsport, the team principal of CJ Motorsport. Back almost 70 episodes later.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and today we're here at your shop. Dude, I briefly glanced at these cars last year at SEMA. Which was the one that was on presentation?
We had a GT2. Actually, the car is right behind you right now.
Yeah, the one all torn apart back here.
Yeah, right now. The project car right now, yeah.
Yeah, and it was cool to see it up front, but obviously since the last time I was on the show, I've had a lot more of an education, to say the least.
What's going on? Yeah.
Just always learning, and my appreciation for these has gone through the roof. And seeing some of the components on these cars, it's really impressive. So do you want to just kind of tell us a little bit about just kind of a recap, what CJ Motorsport is, what these cars are, what they're powered by, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, sure, for sure. All right, so yeah, again, Simon Sigier is CJ Motorsport. So for whoever didn't listen to the podcast from last year, I have been in motorsports all my life. I was born and raised in France, went and raced and studied racing engineering there, and started a career here back in 2013. And just climbed the ladder, worked for a different racing team all the way to the DPI with Mazda, and then started my own contracting company, working for also different teams, but as a contractor. All the way up to 2022, where I really started my own team and my own things with the KTMs, which I had experience on a GT4 program back in 2016. They came up with a better product, a better car in 2020, and this is when they got my heart again, especially because they used that 5-cylinder into a race car, which I think that engine checks all the boxes for road course racing, between the weight, fuel consumption, the power that it delivers, the sound, the reliability. It's all in for me. More than that nowadays would be surplus.
The sound is amazing, by the way. When you guys started up, I think it was both of these, it's crazy. Also, the quick jacks, that was my first time seeing quick jacks. Or not
air jacks.
Air jacks. That was my first time seeing air jacks in operation. So that's really cool. I mean, these are just ready to go race cars, right?
Technically, yes. Straight from KTM, they are only building race cars now, and they're starting actually just like Ferrari did back in whenever they really started making cars and getting known. They build a race car, win everything in a racetrack, and made a street car out of it, so they can build sales and create basically the finances to go back racing. So it's kind of this path that KTM is taking, not to copy Ferrari or anything like this, but the passion was into racing. They're really doing very well within the motorcycle world right now, and even though it's not directly related with the car stuff, it's the same synergy, it's the same philosophy. Ready to race, those are the 3 words that defines what KTM Crossbow is about, and that's what the products are shining about. They come literally ready to race. They have the oldest air jacks, racing suspension, racing brakes. They're proper race cars.
So they come out of the box ready to go, but you obviously do your own upgrades and such. But before we get into that, do you kind of want to explain what a benchmark is? So, like, what's a go-to track for you? Laguna Seca, I know I've seen photos of you guys there.
Sonoma, Laguna Seca, all the tracks in the West Coast. Texas, Austin, Coda is one of the big one as well. I raced a lot in Florida as well, and that's where I really started my career here in the U.S. So Daytona, Sebring, Homestead was a big one as well. And then traveled a lot on all the different big racetracks here in North America, including Canada, obviously. Big ones for America is also one of my favorites. There's a lot of very good tracks in the U.S.
So if you can kind of give us a benchmark, right, compared to like another car. Last year, I think we touched maybe on how it compares to like a Super Trofeo or something.
Right.
I can't remember, but can you remind us of like where does this go in the pecking order? Yeah,
we're still right around there between the Ferrari Challenge, the 296 Ferrari Challenge, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and also like the GT3 endurance race cars. Anything from the Corvettes, the BMWs, Mercedes. The thing is, the KTMs are lighter and a little less power as well. The Aero package is still something that needs to be worked on, even though the car is quick and very nimble, easy to drive, quick. The car's never seen a wind tunnel. Ever.
Really? Okay.
They developed a lot of stuff based on simulation, and it works great. You have to tell yourself also, like, once you start like putting car in a wind tunnel and try to develop your aero package based on that, it's you multiply your budget by 10, or probably even more than that. It starts to be really insane for how much you can gain out of it. It's always debatable. But KTM decided to do the other route, more raw, more chassis based, development. Good powertrain, try to develop reliability around everything, and now, all we can see is the car's got a huge potential. I actually learned that the car never, made a wind tunnel like this year. Like, I didn't even know that before that. For me, I thought it was obvious that the car would do such things for development, but it didn't. So there's definitely room for improvement, great potential. And since last year, since the podcast I've done with you guys earlier, we decided to take more initiative with KTM to do a little more development. With reliability is the first thing, as in road course racing and endurance, which is where I'm really coming from. Is if your car cannot finish a race, it's no interest.
Yeah, who cares at that point? It doesn't matter how fast of a lap time.
Exactly. You can have 1,000 horsepower, but if you can do 2 laps, it doesn't matter to us. Even though I start also generating interest with time attack, which 2 laps is all you need. But still, it's the product again. It comes from KTM ready to race. It has to be reliable. It has to be you turn it on, just race, do your thing. No worries with overheating or having the brake pedal going to the floor after 5 laps. None of that is in any way acceptable with that. So we try to keep that as strong as possible and see where we can gain a little bit of power here, a little bit of more performance in the suspensions, or even on the downforce side. Even if we're not going through the wind tunnel, the simulations that we get nowadays are enough to understand how we can actually balance the cars aerodynamically. So that's what we're working on right now for the US market with KTM. Since KTM Crossbow does not have an HQ here, we want to be that eventually. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're putting our time and money in.
Well, there's got to be a lot of data out there already, because there's a lot of products, there's a lot of race cars, there's a lot of stuff. So even running it off a simulation, like, you guys got to be pretty dang close without actually putting it in a wind tunnel. Yeah. Especially if you're out driving the car, I'm assuming you can tell whether it wants to take off and fly on you or wants to stick to the ground, right?
Yeah, there's no better simulation than going on a racetrack and actually testing your stuff. Yeah.
Let's say I want one of these things. What's it take for me to want to get out? I'm ready to race. What do I do next?
So the KTM Crossbow GTX, which will be the entry level car that is up for sale right now, brand new from the factory. In US dollars right now, we're looking at about $290,000 out of the box. It's a track toy, so it's not registered on the street. You're not paying, the sales tax and all that to register all that. So that's basically what it is. It's a car you can still, even for the performance that you get, you can still use that on your own. I still don't really advise it. I still, so you have a better time enjoying your investment with someone that can support it and make sure you don't have to worry about your tire pressures. Because even you can have the best product in the world, you're still going to have things to check on the racetrack for your own safety to start, safety of everybody else, and really to try to push the maximum performance as possible. We had a car in Utah, a newer owner that it has experience with racing his own street cars, supercars on the racetrack with DOT tires. And he started racing one of those cars, and it's like, it's just kind of awful. It's weird. It doesn't react the same way, and it's good at the beginning, and then it slides all around. It's like, well, where are your tire pressures? And he was basically like 10, 20 pounds over what he was supposed to be on slick tires. And he was like, that doesn't make sense, but I'll try. And then, next day, sure enough, the car was amazing. And now it's like the best car he's ever driven on a racetrack. So just because of that, I do recommend have some people that knows or have experience on a racetrack, or good technicians, not exactly an engineer, but it was even better to get more potential out of it. That's kind of where it sits. And it's not a hard car to put your hands on and remove the wheels, cleaning it up, or even maintain. It's really not that difficult. They really made it to where almost like anybody can operate it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I've been looking at them here as we're going along, and that was one of the first things I noticed. I'm picturing car, like even supercars get a super bad rap for like changing the oil. Sometimes the engine's got to come out, all this stuff,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
I'm looking at this thing and the way everything's ran. I'm like, this has got to be the easiest car to work on in the world.
It's smart, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about the easiest. There's like the newer GT3 cars. I don't know if you saw the new like the 296 Ferrari GT3. Like the rear comes off with just like, I don't know. I think there's 4 spring-loaded screws. You can almost like do it with your hands, and the whole entire rear comes off.
Oh, really?
Like it's and the connector is included with the bumper, so you don't even have to connect anything. You just put it on. Back then, in the DTM was like that too. The Formula Ones are the same thing as well, but the cost for this is huge. Like
Right,
the development, make sure every single car, every single connectors, all the pins goes within it without breaking or anything like that. But right before that stage, I think those cars are right there with that. The panels are easy to come off; they're just regular screws. There's not a huge amount of them; they're all the same. You can take almost the entire car apart, like body wise, so access just to the middle of it. Within 25 minutes, one guy was one tool, a T30.
Oh, really?
You can take everything off. And it helps a lot, like for the maintenance. And sometimes you try to say, well, why would you have to take everything apart, like to check everything? Well, you never know. You just never know. Sometimes you run over something on a racetrack on your first session. By the end of the day, you had so much fun you forgot about it. But yeah, maybe there's a hole in your floor, and there maybe
Anybody who's actually had a race car knows.
would know exactly. The maintenance is key, and for us, it's one of the mojo as well that we have. Is like there's no such thing as over maintaining a race car.
Yeah.
You can't tell yourself, no, I spent so much money on making sure the car was good, and that because it's the day that you stop spending that money, make sure that there's no rocks in front of your radiators, that things are gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it always does. And the thing also is like going to the racetrack, having your tires, your hotels, your accommodations, your food, all that, the time spent, the time away from your family or work or whatever you spend to go to the racetrack, to have your first session being canceled because you something was not tied or something was not looked after in the shop a few days prior, then everything is ruined. So it's really not worth it.
Yeah.
And most of our customers are all like that. Like they ask us to spend, they want to spend more money just to make sure that the day they come to the racetrack everything has to be perfect for the most part.
100%. I mean, we see this across the board. Any shop that kicks out 6-figure invoices, their customers are typically like, hey, before I go track my stuff, what's the checklist I should be doing myself here? Like I have friends that are in that same category, not on the road course side of things, but drag racing rather. And it's like, again, every weekend it's a checklist and I get all this done. I got... The more money you spend, the more money you care, I feel.
In a way.
Or
It's more of a
care,
time thing. It's more of a time thing. And at the end, time is money. So it's
Well,
that's
yeah.
the only...
Why would you spend,
Yeah.
X amount of dollars and then just have your weekend wrecked because you just wanted to, skip an oil change or something?
Right.
Well, something stupid,
that,
right?
Or didn't do your alignment. You think you'll be fine or whatever, and then you blow a tire after 5 laps because your alignment was wrong, or even your tire pressures. Like it's as easy as that.
We talk about cheap insurance all the time on the show all the time. Not necessarily Matt Nelson, but what's the cheapest insurance? What's the number one thing? Like if you had to check only one thing, like what's the number one thing that just makes you like the dumbest mistake that you can make that you try to avoid?
When you're saying insurance, like we're not talking like insuring
Not
the
actual
car itself,
insurance,
or
but like-
accidents. Okay, like preparation insurance. Tightening your wheels. It's as easy as that. And some of them, it's the stupid mistake of it's like, oh, we can put the wheels on, don't torque him because we still have to do the alignment or whatever, and then things move along, something happened that was more important and need to take place, and you do that, and then the car gets loaded, gets to the racetrack, and so we have a very, very intensive checklist before the cars get even loaded to our trailer here. The cars don't get loaded if they don't have the certain amount of fuel that we need to start the first session. They don't have the tire pressures that they need. The wheels are not torqued. The steering wheel is not put in place. The data logger is not erased. There's this big list. And that is, if you show up to the racetrack and something happened, I've had that in my experience before racing in IMSA where we got stuck in traffic. There was an accident right before we showed up to the track. We're supposed to be there at 7 and prep the car. First session's at 8:30. We need to warm it up, tire pressures and all that. And then, you show up at the racetrack like an hour late and you have 5 minutes to get everything ready. Your driver inside, everything turned on. The pit lane's got to be ready. And if you start rushing, then you start skipping stuff. So, but to answer your questions, wheels not being tight, fluids, and tire pressures. People are really not being careful with tire pressures as much as it should, especially in road course racing. The stress that a tire takes on a racetrack is massive, and it could be just under pressure, over pressured. You won't realize how much stress the tire can
or
take.
both, like I did.
Or both. You can have left and right, or front and rear. I've seen that many times.
Yeah,
and
my first time on a track. Yeah, I had quite the discrepancies from each tire.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing the first time.
That's the thing, and it's a science. I mean, tire and grip. It's the biggest science. There's so many factors that goes into it. From a tire to another, from a track to another, from a car setup to another. There's so much that goes with it.
So obviously you're helping people when you go track to track, for example, like this race week. Yeah, supporting like this race weekend coming up here for you. What are some of the things that you're doing on the back end? So how big is your team that you're bringing this weekend, for example?
This weekend we're probably about 7.
Oh wow,
7 people. Yeah, so we got 3 or 4 mechanics, 2 engineers, myself, and some. We most of the time we also bring driver coaches, so pro drivers that are literally just taking care of the customer, the driver from A to Z. They go out with the car first. They do what we call a reference lap, see how the car behaves. Sometimes we do some setup adjustments just to make sure the car is actually safe and has the potential to do good lap times on a racetrack. And then from then they pull the data out, send the driver out, see how the driver feels with the car. If there's anything we need to adapt for the driver, that sometimes happens and makes the driver feels more comfortable. And then everybody has a position within the team. As soon as the car comes back, it's a cleanup. We're always clean. We always wipe the cars off, inspect as much as possible, because we always never know. Like, even if you don't hit anything, you're never free from having something that's prematurely going or being worn out or things like this. So checking is really important. And then we pull the data out also for the engineers to check everything from all the temperatures, the oil pressures, fuel. Anything we can prevent to happen, we do that as well. Tire pressures, again, we check that all the time.
It is
you can prevent
nice.
a puncture with that too.
Yeah, I do. So when I'm on the track, that's the one thing I have up on my. Like, I can see some of my other pressures and stuff, but the tire pressure I keep right in there, so I can make sure they're right in where I need them to be. So that's definitely a big one, and I can feel it. And you can feel when the tires get too hot and they start to get greasy and things start to slide. So
or sometimes they just don't give you the grip at all, and they're probably under pressured, or there's so many variables. Pressures is one thing. Temperature is a big one as well. It's intimately related. You can control your temperature with the pressures. So if it's really hot, I do advise to check your pressures, your temperatures. You don't imagine sometimes how low you have to start your tire pressures. Last year in COTA and Porsche Cup. It was extremely hot and humid. Those are the worst conditions for anything related with temperature. And we had to start like way below what the tire manufacturer was recommending to start, because you would know, like, after 2 or 3 laps you would overshoot those temperatures like right away.
Yeah.
And we try different things, and at some point we have to start like close to, like, I don't know, 12, 13 psi.
Holy
it's
shit.
like drag. It's like drag pressures almost.
Yeah.
But
pull this bad boy just a little closer.
Just
Yep,
like
you're
that.
good.
Yeah. So and then you advise your drivers, like, your tire pressure. You don't even tell them the number because you don't want to stress them out. That's another also strategic things that team owners need to know, or engineers.
Like managing expectations, or
managing expectation and give the right amount of information to everybody you work with.
That's so huge, man. Like, so I had a previous guest, Alex Sajati, on the show, the GT4 racer I was telling you about. He told me exactly everything I needed to hear when I was driving his GT500 on the track, and it's a completely different experience than some of the other people's coaching experiences, because they would give them way too much information. Like, all right,
it's hard to process.
You need to tell me what I need to do in this next turn. How? That's it. Quiet. Shush.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that a similar approach that you've kind of learned over the years?
And then different people you work with, whether it's an engineer, a technician, a driver, a coach, or even a hospitality person. Like, you don't have to tell them, like, if the car ran wide or not. This just. And it's also to save your time. Like, sometimes you just give your drivers, like, this is how the car is. We checked it. This is what's going on. This is what I'm expecting from you. You're not pushing for the first 2 laps. You're not hitting any curbs. I don't want to hear anything about how the car behaves after 2 or 3 laps, because obviously your tire pressures are not up to temperature, or up to operating pressures yet. So don't want to hear anything. Just drive the damn car. And then after that, we can debate,
So is that when these cars typically come alive after 2-3 laps?
Yeah, most cars, all cars. Like,
it's
once you're using a slick tires. I mean, I would say those cars. I mean, they're so light, and we have so much tires that it takes a little longer from compared to any other cars. Super Trofeo, with the power and the torque you get, and it's a heavier car, it warms up a lot quicker. So that's the thing, you have to get used to that car for sure.
But these things are no joke when it comes to the aero side of things too. I'm sure that weighs it down quite a bit too.
Yes, that's a big advantage we have over a lot of other GT cars. It's actually, matter of fact, it's a big subject that we have when we start racing in certain series where we enter as a GT car. It's not a prototype, even though it has a carbon fiber monocoque. So does some McLarens. So some of the cars have that as well. It's just a different architecture. It's closer to a prototype because we have two tunnels on either side of the monocoque that are closed up with the body that are two cooling channels basically for the intercooler and the radiator. But they also act as a downforce component. It keeps the car down because there's so much air going through the car. It's like a pipe, you just throw through the air. It's just going to go straight into it. It's not going to be deviating in different areas. It's kind of the same phenomena that's happening with those cars, and that's straight from prototypes. That's the same idea. But there's a road legal version of this car, so it's technically a GT car still.
So let's talk about that a little bit, and we will get into the additional packages and such too, because that takes it to a whole nother level.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about this car. When are we going to start seeing this on the road here in the U.S.? Because it's still not here. We'll get back to the show in a second, but if you or your shop is building a car this winter, you might need components for an exhaust, an intake, charge piping, and who knows what else, because builds never end. If you need mandrel bends, flex couplers, T-clamps, and more, make Hayes Performance your first stop so you're not sitting around waiting on your stainless steel goodies. Check out everything they have to offer at hayesperf.com and use code Monoxide for free shipping as well. Let's get back to the show.
It's still not here. It's still not here, and I wish I could give you. I wish even myself, I would have even the information that I could not even enclose, but I don't. We are working to import one of the very first cars, a pre-production car from KTM that they've developed for the past 3 years. It's a car that I've driven myself. The very first GTX R I've drove in April this year. And in September of this year, I made a marketing trip, to bring this car to a hill climb in Italy. So we picked up the car in Austria, brought it to Italy, did a full road trip with it, about 2,500 miles, and it was amazing. But the whole deal for this was to understand how we can see those cars here in the country. We have restrictions, not directly from the state the country, is also from the contract that are signed with KTM. And that is Audi, for example. They have a big contract with Audi for the powertrain that they use, obviously. And Audi has restrictions as far as, we can sell you those engines, but we don't want to have street legal Audi-powered cars outside of Europe, basically, or in the States. So there was restrictions for that that are almost like being waived little by little right now. We're kind of in a gray area. We're still not sure if this is still up to date, if we still have full restrictions, or a few models can be sold street legal here. And then how street legal can this be here as well? We went through the first test, the first standard that the US requires, and unfortunately the car without an airbag and retractable seatbelt was not eligible to be street legal here. So those are the two main things, or three, I guess, with the engine and then those two things. And then it's how else we could get those cars street legal without having to go through this process of being mass street legal, fully imported and street legal straight out of the dealership.
So the two of the three main things. So you said seatbelt and airbag?
Airbag, yeah.
Is it just one singular steering wheel airbag? That would cover that requirement.
Apparently,
so
yeah.
I don't see why not just throw in a regular seatbelt and
we could.
airbag.
We tried, but the last component was Audi was giving a restriction. So at that point,
they said no.
KTM didn't decide. Decided to not spend all the money to convert everything, because it's not that easy to put a retractable seatbelt in a carbon fiber monocoque. You would have to cut into it. It's not that easy. Or it actually looks very ugly. You can have the retractable seatbelt components sticking on the outside. It looks ugly.
You've seen a noble M12. It's not exactly the prettiest car. It's a glorified kick car.
Yeah.
And that thing is loved. It'd be.
There's a few. The Ariel Atom, for example. That's a car that's built here, is street legal here. I don't see why not. But as an OEM, and also built overseas, we're seeing a lot more restrictions.
Well, we know that just from talking to a couple engineers from OEMs when we were in Detroit a couple weeks ago. It's not easy to even do it here for them.
No.
I mean, everything has to go through some crazy testing, and they've got to pass some stringent things that the government gives them, some guidelines that makes it very difficult.
It really is. Yeah. You see it why we don't see really crazy, like more crazy stuff on the road, like
especially in the U.S. too. Like, so I actually looked at even like the AMG GTRs, right? They don't have those bumps on the back of their cars over in Europe, and it's like,
well, right, yeah.
Which is weird, man. Like you would think we'd have less restrictions here than in Europe, but
and you don't. That's the thing. This country is about the extremes all the time. That's what I love about this country too. It's so free to do anything you want that you really have extremes on either side. And when I say that is like you have, well, Teslas, for example, like they were born here. Like the electric cars that are mass produced and used everywhere, it's born here in the U.S. And on the other hand, there's some states, I think like Florida, you can literally just put 4 wheels on the bathtub and get a VIN number for it, and you can drive that on the street.
Sounds like Florida.
Or, I mean, you know what I mean? And it's in a way you can still drive that like in all 50 states. Like it's so both extremes. So we're working on it. It's gonna happen regardless. Whether it's the next generation of cars or the latest of this current generations, it's a huge market.
There's a lot of
people
that want to show off their race car, right? Like they want to take it to the track, but also be able to take it to Cars and Coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the car for that, for sure. The GTX R, I mean, it's astonishing how good of a car it is on road trips. I mean, 26-gallon tank, it gets you by, for 600-700, probably even 800 miles if you're, conservative. That's huge. Like, it's a great road car. Like you can go back and forth in LA from here Vegas on one tank. Like it's great.
Yeah.
Most road cars can't even do that. And then great compartment also for luggage, which you don't get on most supercars. Even Porsches are not the best. This you can put 3, possibly even 4 carry-ons in there.
In these?
Yeah. On the GTX R, yeah.
Does it open the same way the GTX R?
Correct, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, the GTX R actually is motorized, so you have actuators that opens the thing for you. You can open it with the key. It's fine. Like you can show off with that everywhere. Yeah. Even in Europe, I was messing around with kids. They were just going on taking pictures of the car, and I will hit the button far away, and they would think they were fixing open it. It looks like a spaceship straight up from another planet.
So. Touch on, and for those that are watching on video too, touch on what these 3 cars behind us are.
So we have 2 GTX right behind us. So the GTX is more like the club level race cars based on a GT2. But you have a factory engine, instead of a built engine, 500 horsepower. You still have the 6-speed sequential transmission. The racing brakes are a little smaller on the GTX, a little more responsive, but a little smaller. The car is lighter as well. The GT2 has heavier floors to be compliant with the Aero rules. To be raced with other cars that are a little heavier. And then right behind you, you have a GT2 that we are currently working on reliability and power grades. We are working on with a very good partner of ours here in town named Aero Motorsport that most of the Daza people would know.
Yeah.
Lots of records built on the drag strip, but for me, it's the dedication and the amount of knowledge that Hank Iros has into those, and the passion also. We meet in a lot of subjects. So I approached him with those cars. He knew about it, and then I became a dealer, and we started racing those. And we had a lot of conversation, but there was a lot of also restrictions with KTM for us to do anything to the ECU. So we kind of had to find ways to, because it's one thing to build engines, bigger turbo. But if you can't tune it, you can't do anything, obviously. So that was our biggest restriction, and we've been working all year with that. And now it's kind of open. We were able to rewrite our own ECU, and we're still working with KTM on how to get the next version or an upgraded version of the current cars. First, to answer the demand that we have here in the US, most people, most buyers, most owners want to have more power for different applications like time attack, pikes peak, hill climb, all that kind of stuff requires a little more. Would be great to have a little more power, because since the cars were developed, there was a lot of additions in performance as far as suspensions and aero package, to the points where now the GTX, with all the upgrades you can have, feels like a big Miata in a way that you can be flat out in first gear coming out of a corner and the car sticks. It does everything you want. And once you get to the middle or the end of a straight, it's like, man, I wish I had more power. You know, that's the feeling you start to
Which
get.
Which is crazy for like a 600,
yeah,
500-600 horsepower car.
Yeah.
Well, unless you have active aero,
and even then,
yeah, you need something to power through that in the straights.
Active aero, that's a good point. We have that on the pipeline as well, that we're working on. That's going to be after all the other power upgrades. The active aero is tricky too, because removing the downforce you have on the rear is great just for the straights. Like the aero balance takes a big hit, and front aero, active aero doesn't really exist just yet. You know, so.
And when you say it doesn't exist, you mean like in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I mean it does. I mean, I don't know any cars really that has like active front aero. I mean, I know some Mercedes, like some of the cars for the street cars actually have some flaps they can open. I mean, it's really not doing much.
There was even the AMG one, like it has like the fins do their thing.
It does, and that's probably one of the only car that I know of that's something that's
several million
proven.
dollars.
Yeah, and that works, you know, straight from OEM. But there's no such things as Canards that opened up or closed down. It just doesn't exist very well just yet. So we're still on the very first stage of active aero.
Well, some people, I mean, it looks great, right? But they don't realize that at 100 miles an hour over, how much that's actually weighing the car down. I ran at a roll race event with another GT500 that was probably another 100 plus more horsepower than I had. He had this built and pulley down, things like that. And we were running neck and neck, and we got off the track, and he's like, dude, I don't understand. And I was like, well, is your wing in full track mode? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, take it out of track mode.
Yeah, for the drag,
we're just doing straight runs. You don't need that, you know?
Yeah.
So he was like, oh, okay, that makes way more sense. I mean, 600 pounds at 100 miles an hour on the GT500, that's a lot.
Yeah, you feel it for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
And depending on the type of wing you have as well, it's some of them give you good downforce at lower speed, but at higher speed it drags so much.
Yeah.
And some others are designed to really be super effective at speed, where they actually don't even give you any drag. Just like it's just giving you more grip. But yeah, that has a lot to do, and that's where, you know, simulations and then the wind tunnel start to be debatable. You know,
right?
As far as like how much the car is dragging and how much you're getting, you know, more performance from. And eventually, we have to get there, because right now we're at the levels where chassis is great, reliability is great as well. Let's see how we can push this a little further, because we're really close to like past like lap times, like GT3 lap times right now, even with the GTX with 500 horsepower. So at this point, a GT2 car with all the aero we can get from KTM. Yeah, we're quicker than most GT3 cars. We're getting closer, or even sometimes even quicker than some LMP3 cars that are a little underpowered. So, adding a little power, make sure it's reliable. That's where we're hitting right now.
We know what these Dazas are capable of,
Yeah.
so that shouldn't be an issue.
Not too much, but in the same times, we haven't yet to see a Daza in the road racing category just yet. That's
it's a
built
different
properly.
demand you're asking for. It's one thing to do, 8, 9, 10 second passes. It's another thing to do it, beat on it for what you said, 3 hours.
Yeah, or even more than that. Well, obviously we wouldn't run like 700-800 horsepower for 3 hours.
Okay.
But most potentially you can get out of a car and then keep it fun. Yeah, it has to be sustaining like 45 minutes an hour on track. And once you pass that, usually you'll be good for more than that. But yeah, 3 laps, 5 laps, not enough.
Yeah.
How did that partnership with Aeros begin, or when did it begin?
So when I actually moved in Vegas in 2018, I worked at a speedway with Exotics Racing. A few shops away from where Aeros was, and I had just bought my first new car, was a GTI, and I heard about Aero, so I passed by a few times. And funny enough, at that time they were really, really big, was the RS3s, and we just had a customer purchase an RS3 TCR to race the IMSA and SRO championship. So I pulled up with the GTI at first. No one paid attention, and then I pulled up with the RS3 TCR, and everybody was like jaw dropping. It was fun. But everybody was kind of disappointed that the car didn't have the 5-cylinder. It's like, what is this? I was like, well, this is made really for like road course racing, and all the cars have to run a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. But the base of the car is still cool to look at and see, if there's anything you can inspire from for your stuff. So the relation started like this. There's a few parts that I wanted to try out, like lightweight parts or even suspension parts that they could try on their drag car. And then we moved on from that. Then there was the R8 stuff. They started turbo those R8s as well, and there was the question is like whether starting with a street R8 or the GT4 R8 that comes factory with the roll cage, the racing suspensions, the racing tanks. It had air jacks, some stuff that it didn't need to, but the base was so much better on the GT4. Actually, those cars were cheaper also, like the race cars. So I helped them out also getting introduced with that. And then my vision was KTM already at that point. Like I was still working for another team. But when I saw what KTM was coming up with the 5-cylinder, we're like, we got to get one of those cars here at some point. So I told Hank, let me be part of that. Let me be the man. I'll bring those cars over, and then we'll work together on that. And it finally just started right now. We had a few hiccups at the beginning, obviously, because we couldn't access to the ECU. We dynoed the cars. We try to figure where can we go to get more performance out of it, or where if there's anything that needs to be changed for even reliability on the stuff that they've seen. Mm-hmm. And this year has been really revelating everything, because we had an issue with the GT2 engine, and I don't know how much I can talk about this in public, but
don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble, but at the same time, I'll be all right. I'll pay the consequence if I need to. We basically find out that the GT2 engine was not really well built for reliability. Like I find out directly working with Hank that Hank had about 5 or 6 years of experience more than whoever was building those engines in Europe, which it's a very famous builder. The guys that build those engines for the GT2 are the same guys that built the 5-cylinder back in the 80s, 90s in Trans Am, the IMSA GTO, the Pikes Peak car, that 5-cylinder that you've seen with the huge turbos. That was all those guys, and they were really, really successful. But it was the beginning of that engine. Audi came back in late 2000s to bring the 5-cylinder back. Yep. Only for the street cars at first, but it started with an iron block. They did the first TTRS, and then it came with the RS3, and then in 2017 it came with the Daza, the second generation engine. It's full aluminum, and it just unlocked a lot of doors also for making power with that engine. So, and it's much lighter and it's more reliable. I mean, it's just really starting to check a lot of boxes at that point. So, it's and right now we're working pretty tight on this. I'm teaching Hank the stuff that we need for road course racing, stuff that we don't need, and he's teaching us like, hey, like this is how you make power with that, and this is how you increase reliability.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, like the bearings for the crankshaft, for example, like those are all things that they tested like 20, 30 different types of bearings. Some of them are better than others, and he goes also to the point, it's like, okay, you can build an engine, but also what's the rebuildability, like how long can you raise that engine for, and when do you have to rebuild it, and what's the cost? Like, do you need to replace the entire block? Can you just replace the bearings? There's just a lot that goes to that as well. And for us, it's the full picture. It's not we can just go to do disposable engines. People that buy those cars, they expect things to last and being maintained and keep on running it. That's how all the other manufacturers are, and we have to keep it this way. I know, like I'm saying this because I know in drag racing, for example, it's pretty common to have like multiple engines, like almost like in go-kart. Yeah. And you rebuild the engines like every 5-10 passes. That's in a level.
Oh, and so and some puke their Cheerios every pass.
Exactly.
Especially if you watch World Cup, but this last weekend. But
so that is not a standard we can be.
No, you can't. It's just it is kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Because you're at high RPMs with G-forces in multiple directions now for 2 minutes at a time or a minute and a half, depending on a track. Like it's a. I don't want to say it's more demanding. It's just
it's 100% more demanding.
It's a different type of demand for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's long term, right? Yeah. Demand, like for what you're trying to do. Yeah, it makes sense. So, how does that conversation? Like, what are you teaching each other, right?
Like recently, it was like the passes we're doing in a dyno to develop our first engines. We with our tuner, we wanted to see what the engine can really make. So the passes we're doing were really extended. On Dyno, we're just like flat out for 12, 14 seconds, you know, from beginning of the power range all the way to the top to the rev limiter. And obviously you set up the dyno to hold that, you know, so the pass is longer. Where the passes that they do are usually like 5-6 seconds, you know, and you just get into the boost to go all the way to the rev limiter, and if like 1 or 2 seconds, and that's about it. Where for us, if we can't be reliable on dyno in a way, there's no point on trying to spend the money to go to a racetrack. We know we're not going to last like a lap or two.
That's very important too.
So we're putting more stress to it to understand like where the failure points, where you know where we're lacking. And we find out that right now, even with all the good upgrades that we put on the engine, the intercooler is not like ready to handle more power. Like we're seeing like higher intake air temperature, which is vital. Like it can kill an engine, you know. If
real quick.
Yeah, exactly. Like quicker than you think. And it's personally is one of the last things I would have checked. That was one of the last things I would have thought.
Really?
You know,
okay.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking, as long as your oil, your water, all that is good to go, like not much to worry about. But yeah, it's a big thing, like the efficiency of an intercooler.
I can't see from my perfect angle here. So which turbo's on this then?
So this one, I think it's 1050 or 1200. So I know it's rated for like 1200 horsepower.
Is it the Zonas?
Those are the Zonas.
Okay, yeah, because I think Zonas is Hank's go-to from what I hear.
Yeah, they build everything from that, and it's, as far as I've heard, they've never broke one.
Well, it's also kind of, again, this is outside looking in. I've heard it's like kind of like cream of the crop. Like it's a very highly respected brand in the space.
I think it's a newer brand, newer technology, and it's some of the debates we have with KTM right now, because the turbo that comes with the GT2 cars, actually blew 2 of them this year.
Okay.
The 2 GT2 that I drove, we blew in a turbo, they're $6,000 turbo. They're pretty expensive, but they're all technology, I want to say. I don't know. They're just not designed the way the newer turbos are designed, and they're just not as efficient, you know. Mm-hmm. So to run the same amount of power, I guess you put more stress to them. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think we're really leading to the next chapter for those cars, working with Aeros and the product that he has, and all the experience also that he put into those engines, to see what's the next step.
So is he the one doing the tuning, or you are, or who does the tuning?
We're working a little bit together on this, because
when you say we, you and him, you mean, or
us and Aeros and CJ Motorsport and our tuner, because it has to be a team effort, because it's one thing to build the engine, it's another to tune it. But if you're tuning an engine, you have no idea what's in there, like the cams or whatever, then it's, you know, you're not getting the full potential.
No Ivy League for your kids this year, because Tuned by Sean is having a massive Black Friday sale on a mountain of Haltech products. If you want your build ready for the 2025 season, send your little prodigy to community college and take advantage of the 5 to 20% off deals on all types of Haltech goodies. Go to tunedbysean.com and check out what it'll take to get your build on the road for the next car season. Let's get back to the show.
And between building the engine, tuning it, and then tearing it down, inspecting what's in there, what's failing, what's seeing more wear than some other things, all that has to be connected. It has to be communicated. That's how the biggest manufacturers, you know, in the world works. And I'm kind of copying that, because I know that's an example, you know. I'm inspiring myself from that.
I just find this fascinating, right? Because again, it's 2 very different worlds that are kind of colliding here. So it's just it kind of just blows my mind to see, like, all right, you guys are joining forces here. So and it's still going to be on the Motec, right?
It's still going to be in the Motec for the first versions of what we're doing. We do have a partner in Europe that is going with a Bosch route, a Bosch Motorsport route, I want to say. And it's funny, because I'm seeing a battle. Like, I'm kind of like in the middle of this. We have our partners in Europe, and we were doing the Motec stuff here with some Motec guy. And the Bosch guy is saying, oh, we're doing Bosch because Motec cannot do that, and that. And then you go with Motec, it's like, well, yeah, we have this, you know, since 5 years, it can do this, and that. It's like, I don't understand why they're saying this. And then, so it's
good to see that rivalries happen at the top level too.
And the funny part is that Bosch owns Motec.
Oh, really? Okay. I did not know that.
Bosch bought Motec, I think, in 2017 or so, 2018. So yeah, not a lot of people still know about that. But up to this point, from my experience, working with big manufacturers on the racetrack with factory built race cars, Bosch is the leader. Mm-hmm. You would see Bosch everywhere. Like any big things that wins, their program was Bosch. Where on the other hand, Motec is also really good at what it does, like you'd see very good stuff like in Time Attack, for example, where it's not manufacturer supported, So what I've learned is that Motec is a lot more free to do kind of whatever you want. You can basically do whatever you want with Motec. You can, even if you don't have enough output, you can just add another PDM. You can add as much as you want. Everything will just talk to each other and do whatever you want. Where Bosch is more of like an OEM structure. It's more reserved for manufacturers to just program whatever they want, and it's kind of how it comes, and that's it. There'll still be a few companies that would take what Bosch has to offer, but it's not as open as what Motec has to provide.
So Motec is like an Android device, and Bosch is like an Apple device.
In a way, yeah. That's one interesting way to put it. Yeah. Even though, I haven't used an Android for a very long time now, and I think
have a much more open platform.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think it's And Bosch, works out of the box kind of right away. It's a little more expensive too. So it's a very good example.
All right.
Which Motec do these run?
Those actually run M142 because they're on the DI.
Okay.
Direct injection, and it's plenty. Honestly, it's you don't really need more than that for now for those cars. They don't have too much going on, but we did add one PDM on the car to operate the pneumatic transmission system that we're using right now. That was the only way we could tune those cars, is to convert the transmission to an air shifted unit, because that's tunable. The car comes with an e-shifter, and even if we had the capabilities of tuning it, I would have gone away from it. It's just we had too many issues since the very beginning. Not just us, like even I was talking about other manufacturers that went this route with the e-shifting system. Is just we're not there just yet. I feel like if we want to have electronic control shifting, it would have to be like one actuator per gear or something kind of like in Formula One. It's converting something that works like a sequential transmission, the way they've been built from the very beginning on motorcycles and then on race cars, where you have a barrel that turns and you have like a plus and minus direction to upshift or downshift. Putting that with an electronic system just doesn't work very well. The pneumatic is still hands down the most reliable things we've seen for the past 20 years at least.
What going back to ECUs real quick, what ECU is in the street car? Is that also a Motec, or is that?
It's a factory Bosch ECU.
Okay.
It's the one that comes. Technically, KTM with Audi, they basically took the entire Audi powertrain from an RS3.
Okay.
So harness, I believe the harness, engine, transmission, ECU, TCM, and then it just adapted to the car. Okay. So you even have like the diagnostics units, all that. It's Audi stuff. So technically, you can take a GTX R to an Audi dealership, and they will be able to plug in and do stuff to it.
Okay,
that's awesome.
It's that easy, and it's smart. I mean, I wouldn't have personally, I wouldn't have not done it any other ways. It works great on the Audis. Why change it?
Right.
Do you know how mad that makes me? Like, if you can get one of these street legal in the U.S. and be able to take it to an Audi dealership, do you know how cool that'd be? Like, it wouldn't be everything, but
yeah. Audi would definitely look at you different. It's like, what is this thing? We had the R8. We're like, this is like a whole new level.
Well, we have a friend, or I have a friend rather. Dan doesn't know him yet. It's okay. It's my imaginary friend. He takes his, he has a Camaro ZL1, and it's like, he takes it to NASA, so like all the road course racing, and it's like he'll take his car on slicks to get an oil change at Chevy because he still gets free oil changes there.
That's funny.
Or just whatever the free maintenance is. So it's just everybody's like, oh, it's
warranty work or whatever. Yeah.
Is that the one was that Patience?
Yes, that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is still stock drivetrain, but everything else about it is race car. So I'm sure that looks real weird.
He got Rookie of the Year and just set a lap record at the Ozarks Raceway. Have you been to that one yet or no?
No. We were supposed to go there in I believe it was Super Trofeo 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
And they canceled that because...
Yeah, that's the year they opened, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago, too.
I think, they canceled. Either the track was not ready but I do remember there was kind of like a revolt like from most of the teams and organizers, like, we can't race there. It's not safe enough from all the other tracks. I've never been, so I can't judge, but I've seen a few videos, and it's like wheel-to-wheel racing at a certain level is...
I could see it being
super. You could be really dangerous, yeah.
I've heard definitely you need to be... I should be careful how to say this because it's gotten a little bit of blowback before. It's a great track, 100%. I feel like for a novice, it's like, all right, maybe not full send it.
Yeah, not the first truck to be going.
It's very, very hilly, which is amazing. Right. That's exactly what you want as a driver. Mm-hmm. But it also, you want to be very aware of your skill limitations.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. That's why we have warning labels on the back of cans now. Like people, like somebody messed up somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Well, that adds a whole nother factor when you start loading and unloading the suspension with all of that hills too. So that if you're not a fully experienced driver, that's
you gotta anticipate all that, for sure. And then it's like blind corners, I guess. Like,
yes.
if you get into a lot of anticipation, you gotta have some experience for sure. I'm probably not a track I would advise to be like a first track day. The way it sounds.
Yeah. Maybe if you were in a Miata.
Yeah, even then. But yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I'm glad you brought up suspension, Dan. There's a lot of different ways to tune a car, right? Like it's not just to when it comes to just messing
tuning
with
an engine or
everything, right? Yeah. Thanks for helping me out there. You could tell I was the Celsius is wearing off.
I knew what you meant.
The Celsius is wearing off. This is why we need bucket energy.
Yeah. But you're just jet lagged from that 3-hour flight.
It's no, dude, it's been go. But so anyways, what's your favorite aspect to tune on a car?
Chassis.
Chassis, okay.
I'm more into chassis guy.
So what does that look like?
First you figure out your tire pressures.
Back to the tire pressure.
Yeah, tire pressures again. Because you can coach a guy, you can turn as many clicks as you want on suspension, not just as much as you want on the wing. If you're not into that window where you're using 80% of what your tire can give you in grip, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're not using your tire properly, you're not using the full grip level of the tire. It affects everything from putting the power down to being under brakes to load a car on sideways. And the more you push a car, the deeper you can brake, the more the car would move. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, you can start adjust the balance of the car, for example.
It's kind of like I feel like a good analogy for this would be like you're trying to, if your tire pressure is too low, that's like running in flip flops. If it's too high, it's like you're running in heels. Right, you need an optimized running shoe in the middle, right?
Correct, yeah. And then you have to use a tire wear that goes to that, and then it's the same thing. I've seen people, going crazy with adjusting sway bars and camber, big camber. They look at a tire, it's worn out more on the inside. And first of all, a car on a racetrack is supposed to be worn more on the inside than the outside, or you can't expect to have something like more even all the time. Like a lot of people send things like, there's so much grip on the, so much meat on the outside of the tire, but not on the inside. Well, you want a little bit of that, if you want to pull performance out of a tire. But same thing, like they would to try to adjust camber and all that, but their tire pressures would be completely off. So a tire will work differently if the pressures are not set properly to start with. So, most important thing is that. Then your tire pressures, and then you see how tire reacts. And then there's two ways to really set up a car. The first one that we do a lot, and it's still my favorite, is driver feedback. My favorite if everything meets, like if all the conditions meets. The driver feedback, if the driver is not experienced, or it's just not gonna go anywhere. I had other drivers, like pro drivers, that it didn't matter like what car you give them, they would put it on the podium. It didn't matter. Like it just a few things here and there, but it's not really profound in setting up a car. But they would adapt. They would make a car under steering being fast no matter what. They would just adapt on the driving style and they'll get it out there. So that setup wise is not much to do. But then you have the drivers they're really picky. They know what they want. They know where the balance needs to be between oversteering and understeering, between a car that has worn tires and new tires, and a full tank of gas and an empty tank of gas. And at that point you can really dial in, and that I like a lot. Between also like the top speed that we get, do we adjust more downforce? Do we try to give more top speed? Do we try to get a car that's wearing the tires a little more, or we try to be more conservative depending on the race? There's so many strategies, so many factors that comes in.
You rattle this off like it's easy, but you have a finite amount of time in a weekend, right? So like you have to make a lot of decisions.
Yes. That's what really makes engineers and racing teams stand out. Mm-hmm. It's like the amount of preparation they come with to start. Which
comes back to you bringing support to the racetrack then.
Exactly.
You have multiple brains figuring out the best way.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. And that's the hardest thing too, is like to find the right amount of brain that can connect all together and work to the same direction.
Just throw it into ChatGPT. What should I look at this data? What should I do here?
Well, it just doesn't work that way.
Speaking of the data, then, do you have an ideal tire pressure? And I know, or a way to for somebody who's listening right now, a way to get that information? Because I've heard that you want to check with your tire manufacturer. They should have like a recommended.
Yeah.
This is where you need it to be. So you would go down, go out, warm the tires up, see where it ends, and then decide if you need to take more in or out.
Right. So
how does a novice know when it's perfect?
It's almost when I want to start to say that tire pressure is almost not for a novice.
Yeah.
It's that bad. And no, I mean, it's a good subject because in my career, like working with a lot of different tire manufacturers, not all of them will give you instructions. Not all of them.
Right.
Some of them will, you ask them what's the recommended tire pressure. It's like, figure it out. Mm-hmm. and it's 100% true. I mean, and I want to say also, like, some manufacturers will just give you some tire pressures just to make you happy. It's not what would actually run the best, but it will keep you within like 70-80% into the window of where the tire works well. But tire pressure changes so much. Like, what's your tire? What's your ambient temperature? What kind of driver you have in the car? What's the type of car you're driving? Is it a front wheel drive car, rear wheel drive car? Humidity level, track. How's the pavement? It's.
So is the answer experience?
Experience, yeah. Experience and knowledge. Take courses.
Okay.
You need a lot of data. You need a lot of data to understand how far away you are from
how your car
good tire.
Feels even. Like, for example, I've only got realistically 3 track days under my belt, and it's all in different cars. One's the Huracan over at Speed Vegas or whatever 7 years ago. The other one's my autocrossing, my GTI, and then Dan's GT500. That's all very different data points, by the way. So what you're saying is have one car that's consistently set up and try to put time into this one aspect and learn that aspect. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a base, right? I mean, with regular, like 75, 80 degrees outside temperature, for a slick tire, you're looking around like 28, 29 PSI or so.
Okay, that makes sense.
I wanted to say 30 in my head around there, but
depending on the driver, like a slower driver, I'll put him at 30.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not going to push the tire as much. You have to compensate a little bit of the amount of temperature he's generating out of the tires. A little more pressure will help him out. And then another thing is heat cycles. How many heat cycles your tires has? I would run like 27 a brand new set of tires, more 29, 30, with the same conditions to try to build a temperature quicker and everywhere within the tire. Because there's surface temperature, carcass temperature, inside temperature, sidewall temperature. I mean, there's so many different areas where you want to have temperature.
Oh, wait a second. Don't these things have like some weird laser thing for
tire temperature?
Yeah.
Yeah. TTMS. There's it's fascinating also how far we come for that. There's sensors now you can actually put into the belt or actually within the rim and inside of the tire, and it inspects the inside of your tire, and it knows the contact patch. It can detect that, like how much is it, and like what temperature that contact patch is actually hitting.
Are you able to show us this like off camera later by chance?
Or no? I'm sure it's online. You can find some stuff. Yeah, I'll have to find the link again. And that since it's inside your tire as well, can take your pressures as well. So you have all this information within one sensor. It's pretty amazing. This car has a system where we have lasers on the back of each tires that has 16 ways. It checks 16th position in the tire. So you know within the inside, the outside, the middle.
That's crazy.
The different temperature you can have, and we also have like a screen inside, so we can actually teach our drivers how to warm up a tire properly and to keep it up to temperature as well.
Okay.
Because some of the races we do obviously have like double yellow flag where you're just like standing, you have 50, 60 miles an hour. Your tires cool down a lot, and like what do you do to keep them up to temp, and when do you do it as well? You can try to keep your tires up to temp at the beginning, but then you're wearing them out at the same time. And if the yellow flag like lasts a long time, that at the end you're just overheating everything. Or it's a skill to keep your tires happy.
Dude, I don't think you understand how much my brain is swelling with questions now. Isn't there like a suspension like ride height like sort of like laser thing as well?
There's a ride height laser that you can have as well. Those are great.
I think I remember seeing a photo of it with one of these cars or something weird about it. Can you kind of touch on that real quick?
A little bit. That's probably one of the sensors I really don't have a lot of experience with.
Okay. But
there's a lot of great advantage you can get from that. The ride height sensor would help in suspension adjustment, obviously. You try to see what kind of ride height you have at lower speed and higher speeds, because how faster you go as a downforce, the whole chassis goes down. You want to stay on a certain limit for that. But Was your question like about how it works, or like
Yeah,
what
is
do
it
we
more
use?
so just how it chooses to put the power down or something like that, or how does it like?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. On the drag racing side, yes. They use
that's right,
use
yeah.
that for traction control. They have like a ride height sensor in the front, and if they see there's too much lift in the front, they cut the power a little bit, try to keep that down. Because the higher they put it, even for 4-wheel drive cars, if the front wheels like lift up too much, then you're losing tractions basically. So you try to control that.
Does that same aspect apply here? Or not as much.
No, for road course racing is a little different. Like we don't have such things like lifting, and so like it's more about how close your chassis is from the ground. At higher speed, and then we have something called like a third limit on the suspension on prototypes. It's an extra shock basically, if you want, that's linked between both suspensions in the front. Most likely in the front, you have some in the rear as well, and that's to limit the amount of droop the car or the lift the car would have, or how much the car would dive with the downforce applied to it. So and it's independent from the suspension, so you can still go through curb, having the suspension work the way it should. But you would have a limit on how much the car would drop. And then you would use a sensor like this for that. They also use the sensors, like I know in IMSA, if the car is up in the air, the ride height sensor will detect that. And when I say up in the air, is like on a pit stop, changing the wheels, the car would know when the car is down and can restart going into gear. So you would like a safety features where the car cannot go into gear if the car is up in the air. And that's the only way you can tell is having this kind of sensor.
So that's on these cars. It's just they're more for data collection than it is for. I mean, obviously, there's nothing being adjusted on the fly or anything like that. But you can come back, see that data, and be like, okay, maybe I need to adjust here.
Correct.
Okay.
There's probably more stuff to it because I've seen it many times on IMSA cars. That's something I would like to look into. I'm I'm sure there's some other benefits to have that on road course race cars. Maybe I don't know, tire degradations, or there's got to be something that could be checked because you have that data. Yeah, I'd say I have to look into it. That's actually very interesting.
Do you so I see your GT350 out here.
Yes.
Is that
Here we go to Ford stuff.
well, have you changed anything suspension wise on that, or are you still running? They have Magnerite on those as
They
well.
have the
correct?
Magnerite.
Yeah.
The only thing I've done, and I was really happy I've done, it was the springs and the sway bar, the Ford Performance springs and sway bar
Okay.
that I had. The Ford parts, and I swear I this car should have come with that. The R should have come with the Ford Performance part. It's a little lower, a little stiffer, but still still a street car. It still feels like a street car, but it's just that extra little level that the R should have. Like it's weird, but that's all I've done to it. If I do any upgrades, will be a set of Allens. But it's a car that I retired from the racetrack. If I track anything right now, it'd be one of those. So I love my Shelby, but it's a whole different level.
Yeah.
And I don't enjoy it as much on a racetrack. First of all, you have a helmet on, you don't hear that engine screaming the way it does as much. So there's a few aspects you don't enjoy it just as much anymore. So amazing Canyon car. Hands down, it's like we've been in Monterey this year, and I took it on drive over there, and just like, man, it doesn't get any better than this. It resonates from all the mountains everywhere. Yeah. That V8 sounds just amazing, and it's a street car setup, so you have more ride height, more suspension movements, a little softer. So for little streets like canyon roads, it's amazing. Just works.
I just love the fact that somebody from Europe into racing does these amazing race cars here, and still loves the Shelby. It's just
It's where credit is due to me. You know, I would never be able to own something like this in Europe. Mm-hmm. But first of all, it's illegal, and if you get a way to get it, it's extremely expensive. And then if you need a part, you're screwed. You can't get anything over there. I mean, you have to import it from me. That's it just doesn't work. So I'm taking advantage. Yeah, I'm taking advantage for sure. And also, how long are we gonna get those cars? High revving VA like this. For me, 100% sure. Ford's not gonna come back with a different type of voodoo or anything like this.
No,
I think we're at the end of the Coyote. After that, it's gonna have to be electrified in a way. I think. I mean, it's.
You think so?
I don't see any other way. Electrified, turbo. I mean, whatever you want, but it's. I mean, we're at the limits right now on pump gas. I don't think you can get more power, more efficiency. It's they already doubled the butterfly, the throttle bodies. We call it butterfly in French, I think. Sorry.
There's a butterfly in
there. It is in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see anything else. I mean, I just saw like it's sad, but it's the truth we have to live in right now. The C63 is a 4-cylinder now. It's
Ugh.
I know.
Ugh. I forgot about that. Why would you have to ruin my day like that?
And I just to remind you how great those things are, kind of. You know, it's yeah, and I love this thing. Like I always want to sell it when I'm not using it for 6 months. And I was like, all right, just sitting there, I'm just gonna sell it. It's all right, let's go clean it up. Let's go put fuel in it. Let's get some pictures. And as soon as I drive it, I don't even make it to the gas station. I'm like, all right, there's no way I'm selling this thing. I'm keeping that.
I've done that a lot of times when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sell this car. And then by the time you clean it all up, you're like, damn it, there's a reason
I wish
why
I could have it.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
That was me when I sold my last GTI too. I was like, we did a whole detail, and I'm like, fuck, do I really want to sell this car? So you're a big bald eagle guy. You just love bald eagles. Everything that we just throw over here.
Yeah, I naturally aspirated. I like a lot.
Okay.
I like a lot, but at the same time, I mean, I do turbo stuff on those
I was about
cars.
to say, see the irony in this big turbo behind me, right?
It's and you have to live with your time too. If you want to be competitive nowadays, you can't be natural spirited, and that's where for me the Mustang is the fun car. I would own 2 of these over a GT3, Porsche, even though it was my dream car before I knew about the GT350.
350. You mean? Or really? Okay.
Yeah, I think. There's too many Porsches out there. They're great manual transmission and all that, but you have way more sensation in a Shelby.
Okay.
Way more vibrations, way more things, way more, and it's
that's also American engineering.
Yeah.
kind of
A little more raw.
Yeah, more raw,
Yeah.
a little more everything. To be honest with you.
You want vibrations? I'll throw you in a Chrysler.
Yeah, right. I mean, you can. Yeah, no, yes. They really make a phenomenal product, and I don't think they'll. And it's just the look of it too. Like, just look at like the design, everything they've done in this car reminds me, and it's the direct result of Carl Shelby.
Yeah.
The first GT350 that came out was just a regular little thing with a 6-cylinder. It was not supposed to be anything performance related. And he made it a beast. He made it something that's like had a soul. Like he created a soul out of nothing, and he carried on. And I think Carl Shelby would have been really proud. I think of what he's done for this. And
Ooh, that gives a good question.
I don't know how far we'll be after that.
Do you think Ferrari's rolling over in his grave right now with what's being done to Ferrari, or you think he'd be proud of it? Just with all the hybridization and turbos. That's
you have to live with your time.
True.
Let's say, let's say we're an owner of a manufacturer. I would rather have a manufacturer live forever, and carry the name, because it has to also adapt to its time, than having, bankruptcy or a manufacturer that closed because, it didn't follow what the movement was going with, or things that couldn't sell because they're just too old. Like there's, which manufacturer still does that? Like that's like just old stuff. It just doesn't get,
Like
Chevy
actually. With the single cam LS.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I mean, it drags for a long time, but like it's eventually, we'll see the end of it, and it's just gonna have to get something different. But I mean, GM is already not ahead of its time, but it is following the path. Like they come in with different stuff and electric cars. I mean, it's the real truth that we have to live with. So I think you referred to the F80.
I actually don't mind it. A lot of people were clowning me on my Facebook post. I think it's a natural evolution.
That's what I meant.
100%.
And if Ferrari was still making like V12s and stuff like that, like
I like the 296 as well, by the way.
Yeah, and it's V6 turbo and all that. It's like
it's not a bad sounding V6. They're starting to figure the V6s out. I know this is turning into a little bit of a casual conversation, but they are starting to figure out the V6s a little bit. They don't sound like VQs anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Like the performance V6s are starting to sound better and better as long as you don't throw on a silly titanium exhaust or something.
Right, yeah. You have to go a different route than it used to be. Back then, you throw a titanium exhaust on anything was like really good.
Yeah.
But now, it's can't do that.
Yeah, just all the harmonics and all that. Anyways, I'm digressing a little too much here. I was curious what your thoughts were there. Why Öhlins?
It's the best of the best. Well, one of the best of the best. So, give you synopsis, a little historical. When I was in racing school in France, we had a shock dyno, and we were studying every single shock that we could, and we would take 4 shocks out of a race car, and you would dyno it, and for most brands, and I'm saying really most, you would have 4 different shocks. You put them on with the same setup on it, and it will be 4 different graphs. You rebuild it. They're brand new. You put them back on the shock. You test it at 3 different setup, 4 different graphs as well. And what you do usually for most shocks is like you try to valve the shocks so they all match each other, right? But at the end, they have different valving, to be different. And different valvings means that they would wear differently as well. If you have more things that are stacked and one shock that only has like one little shim that's stacked, well, yeah, they would not wear the same way. Where all-ins don't work this way. They figured out, they designed something that's much, much, much better or more complicated in a way. But you can put 4 shocks, whether they're 1,000 miles or 10,000 miles, they will look exactly the same on a graph. And nowadays, there's all-ins, Penske, and Multimatic. For me, there's nobody else that can make shocks properly. Or the way those are doing it. I'm not saying they're bad shocks. I mean, KW, Sachs, they probably make great shocks as well. But yeah, if you want that peace of mind, if you know your stuff and you know that if you put it on a dyno, you kind of know the results you're gonna get. Those are the 3 brands that you can go after.
We'll get back to the show in a second, but if you or your shop is building a car this winter, you might need components for an exhaust, an intake, charge piping, and who knows what else, because builds never end. If you need mandrel bends, flex couplers, T-clamps, and more, make Hayes Performance your first stop so you're not sitting around waiting on your stainless steel goodies. Check out everything they have to offer at hayesperf.com and use code Monoxide for free shipping as well. Let's get back to the show.
I've known them for quite a while, just in the power sports world. Snowmobiles particularly, they are a huge upgrade on a snowmobile, and they came on a lot of the performance sleds stock. Fox has kind of overtaken that whole deal now with the stuff that they make, but Öhlins were like...
Stand out.
Yeah, that was the go-to.
In every work, in every sport, like in everything, yeah. From even bicycle, motorcycles, MotoGP... Race cars, I mean, you see them really everywhere, and it's even for a street car. Like I've bet you any car you drive, even an M3, whatever, and you throw just a basic running track all-ins. I forgot how they call it right now. It's like a 2-way valving system, where you have a lower and a high speed, which changes everything for a car. You increase the comfort and the performance of the car like this by a lot. It's a huge field. It changes the car entirely, just a set of shocks. Especially all-ins. Like if you just put a regular set of coilovers, usually just to get a bumpier ride and something a lot stiffer, which gives you a little more confidence. But if you really start pushing the car with the kind of shocks, like it could be scarier.
Yeah. They were just acquired by another company.
Brembo bought them.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That says a lot. I mean, 4 or 5 million.
Yeah,
it's a big amount, but I think it's a great move. But it's also scary because you're starting to combine too much. I think it's like Amazon and all that. It's the same path.
Be good and be bad sometimes, right? Because sometimes companies be like, "Oh, we can fix this and this." They're like, "Well, what was wrong to begin with?"
Exactly. That's a very good point. I think there's really absolutely nothing wrong with all-ins from the consumer side to the racing teams, the OEMs, to the rebuilding, of the shocks. There's a few people that knows how to do it here in the country and all, and everything is established. Everything's great. Everything's here. So there's, I don't think there's much to change. Hopefully, Brembo doesn't change too much about it.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying, like sometimes people just come in and they just want a cowboy, Like, all right, we're going to shake things up, see what we can do. And then,
exactly. Change everything. And
well, Brembo's pretty synonymous in the performance area as well. So, but they also have their like extreme race version in there. Like, I put this on a track hawk and call it a Brembo. It's not quite the same. Yeah.
I don't know too much about the behinds of Brembo and how did it came up to, hey, let's buy Öhlins, let's buy a suspension company. I'm not too sure about that, but I hope it's for the best. Yeah. And I don't want to say, I mean, whoever's spending $405 million has good intention. I hope. Yeah.
But these don't have Brembos on them. What do they have on them?
AP Racing.
Okay.
AP Racing. It's you see AP Racing a lot.
I've heard great things about it. And it's new to me because I just started getting more involved with the road course. It's
a big race car, a motorsport brand.
Okay. I assume they're carbon, right? Or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
Most race cars you want to see carbon. So that's a good subject we can be on, carbon. A lot of people have
I'm listening.
Different ideas and different perspective on actually what carbon brakes are about. And there's multiple different carbon brakes that you can have. The biggest advantage, if you have the right carbon, weight, unsprung weight. That's the biggest to me. And the second one is actually the wear of a carbon brakes. So when I say carbon, it's directly just carbon that are compiled and pressed in, and it's things that you see on prototypes, DTM, Formula One, and it's the kind of brakes that if you're not having 700-800 degrees on it, they feel like you have W40 between your pads and the rotor. They don't break. They just squeak. They don't do anything. You'd usually see like race car drivers literally just putting like, I don't know, 40, 50 bars of pressure flat out on the throttle at the same time, just to try to generate heat for the first 2 or 3 laps. And then after that, they're unstoppable. The bite, the wear, they can't really overheat. But are really expensive too. I have a set of old pads that I pull out of a DTM car. They have no backing plate. There's no metal at all.
Oh, really?
It's pure just carbon fiber, like pressed in, cut to the shape that you need, and it's weird. It feels like something. I've got stopped actually in TSA because I was transporting some of those. Like, what the fuck are those? Like they beep. They have no metal. Like, what they are? It's like, yeah, I can't even tell you exactly what's in there. All there is it's pure carbon made for that. And then you have the carbon ceramics, which for me it becomes almost more like a marketing thing.
Yeah.
Because the carbon ceramics are, well, you have a little bit of weight reduction, which is great. It's probably the biggest advantage out of those brakes, but it's almost like nothing else. And it's the cost added to it is not worth it.
Yeah, it's quite a hefty price tag.
And then you still generate dust. There's just, you still have so much going on with it. It's a marketing thing.
That's one thing about having a race car / show car. The dust is you want to have real performance, you got to deal with the dust, but it is quite excessive.
And the squeaking and all that.
Yeah.
So carbon brakes and even most race cars, you won't see them with carbon brakes because you either have to have the carbon brakes, and that is not like for everybody. Like I can't put any of my drivers with that. Like a full carbon brakes, like they probably won't even get it up to temp, right away, or like within the few laps, and it will just remove the fun of it. So now you'd see that only on prototypes right now. There's no carbon brakes. So maybe like the Ford GT Mark IV, I think they probably run that, but those are like one-off race cars. They don't you're not really eligible for anything, and it's for pure performance. Which it's something I'd love to test at some point because. Everything on the car is carbon. That's actually one of the things I want to do on the GTX R, is a set of carbon fiber wheels because we have the carbon ceramic brakes. I know it's kind of like going away from what I was saying about having carbon brakes, but there's still an advantage. I mean, it's lighter, and then the sprung weight it's lighter and sprung weight. It's a big change in the car. We already have that advantage with those cars that has the push rod system suspension in the front. So by lightening even more the front wheels, then you really feel an advantage. So carbon fiber brakes, carbon fiber wheels is something I want to add up to this. Because the rest of it, obviously, carbon fiber body, carbon fiber monocoque, everything else carbon fiber. Yeah. The only thing that's not going to be carbon fiber is the engine and transmission, which,
which they tried doing. I think it went horribly wrong. Did you ever
engines?
look into that?
I don't know. I know the transmission has been done before. It's probably still
used. It was
used,
an experiment on the engine front. It didn't go well, from my understanding.
That's weird. Yeah, there's still so much to discover. That's what's so funny, and I think the combustion engine still has a long way to go. I know we haven't touched about that just yet, but
okay.
Yeah,
you seem like you have an opinion on it.
Yeah, I think there's just we're not gonna go full electric. We already saw like the advantage, but also the inconveniency of being full electric. Hybrid is where we're gonna head, and it's not fully established just yet. And that's mainly because for me it's just the thermal control of a hybrid system, because most cars will start on electric. You're leaving your house, you're an electric engine, you do most range right now 30-35 miles, and all of a sudden the engine starts, it's dirt cold, and then it has to end up being on a highway at 3,000 or 4,000 RPM, and you reduce the life of the engines that way. So if we figure out a way and for some reason Tesla has a very big upgrades on that right now. The way they run their HVAC system, it's fascinating. I invited everybody to look into it, because that's literally like space engineering.
To look into what exactly?
The how the Tesla's like HVAC systems are working right now. The way they actually cool down your cabin, the cool down the battery, the motor. They're using like, if I understand properly, did they use one system that's always cold, that's like negative cold, and they use that to cool down your AC, cool down the battery, but it also like can compress the cold gas to generate heat. They're figuring out basically it's a lot easier to like generate heat than cooling down something, you know. I'd have to look at that video again. It was fascinating. I looked it up in the plane. I didn't have any sound or anything, but it was like, wow, it caught my attention. We're into like a next generation of cooling and heating system, or like thermal management. And I think it's going to help tremendously the hybrid system, where we can control the heat of everything, or the coldness, and you can basically keep an engine, a battery, or an electric motor at the same temperature all the time. Whether it stops, it's or you're running it at a high temperature in Death Valley, or you go to Canada, or whatever, you can keep everything always at the same temperature, and that's key.
Because that's the biggest disadvantage about this. I think Engineering Explained put out a video about this with hybrids in particular. Like when the engine is constantly going between a state of on, off, it never properly gets up to temperature.
Yeah, there's so many variations, up and down. It's cooling down too much. It's overheating, not really, but it's not good. It's not good for sure. But if we have something that can keep everything to happy temperature,
that's really cool. I think what you're saying makes sense. Now I need to see this video after this fact. Now,
yeah,
I need to learn about this.
Look into like the new like Model Y, Model 3, cooling system. I know it's made. They have like an 8-way manifold that guides their cooling system to different stuff. But man, it looks like you're looking at something that's going to go to space.
Well, say what you will about the electric cars and Tesla and whatever else, but I think again, if you get that cross pollination of innovation. There could be some cool stuff that comes out of that. So again, straying from it, but
if there's somebody who's going to do it, it's going to be Elon. That guy is constantly, he's got so many irons in the fire, and he's innovating.
I think he's done it already. For me, he's done what we needed, is to prove a point that electric cars, electric system works if it's engineered properly. And there's so much that was discovered just from that. How fast you can recharge a car, how everything works around it with the app system, the way the car, you don't even need a key anymore, and it just works great. It just works well all the time. Everybody's using it. I just bought another Tesla, even myself. It's crazy we just talk about this, but I bought one for my wife. I know I'm never gonna have to change pads on it. I never have to worry about oil change if she's done it or not, and I feel safe. I feel safe to have my wife and my kids driving this thing every day. I think it's just great. And I know, coming from a guy that does motorsport, that lives out of gasoline and tire, rubber smell all the time, it doesn't sound right. But you have to give credit where it's due, and it's for every day. It's freaking perfect.
We just got dropped here in a Model Y, and he's Uber. He works from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week. Charges the car overnight. Never, like you said, doesn't do brake pads, oil changes, none of that. He doesn't buy gas all day long. He says he can start in the morning and end at night and on a full charge. And
that's good.
Yeah, the guy's just printing money.
Literally at this point,
No,
it makes sense, But I don't think it's a full future. I think we'll have plenty of electric cars in towns, but we're still going to need cars to commute from town to town and still travel, especially here in the U.S. And hybrids are going to have to be the product of the future, I think. It's I don't have much to expose on that or disclose just yet on the cars, but the next upgrade now or things I want to work on is hybriding the race cars. A matter of fact, actually, that's one of the big opponent that I had last year at Grid Life was that 350Z, the hybrid 350Z.
Yeah,
that was astonishing. Really good piece of work. Like I'll reach out soon to Anis. I forgot his name. Shame on me. But for the development of that car, and it'll be the natural future, I think, for the race cars that we're building here to put in like an electric engine to compensate, and maybe even just on a turbo or vice versa. Maybe just on a turbo and one on a transmission, and that would save turbo lag. It will save low end torque. You don't have any more if you're trying to build power higher on the RPMs. Yeah, so much more control, so much more torque, like right off the bat. It changes everything. And the car was quicker than me with this thing.
Yeah.
At Laguna Seca by like 2 seconds. It's crazy.
What motor or what engine do you have in there?
On the 350Z,
Yeah.
it still runs the VQ 35.
No way.
Yeah, but it's like the most powerful like VQ ever built. Like it's legit. Like they made it really, really well. I like full respect on that build. Like
I'm going to check that out for sure.
They're
Do you
really
see
good.
that as a future in motorsports then too,
Mm-hmm.
as
already
we
here.
go along? Yeah.
On the prototypes, most prototype, the LMDH stuff, it's all like that right now.
Well, even Formula One won hybrid in 2013, I believe it was.
No, a little after.
Was
Man,
it
can you
2013 or
imagine
14?
14 or 15, yeah.
A day where internal combustion engines are vintage racing.
Well, that's kind of what it was when they had the V10
Right.
this last weekend at Brazil
Mm-hmm.
when Lewis Hamilton drove the V10 around. Everybody's like, "Oh, that's what a race car should sound like."
Yeah. And it's funny you're just saying that. That's why I see your future with this, where you start seeing the new Lamborghini flagship car, the Temerio, being down from a V10 to the V8. That's just the beginning.
The tech behind that car is amazing.
It really is. That's hands down. But still a V8, and there's a big difference in sound once you go from a V6 to V8, and then anything that's past the V8, it's more. I don't know. It's more rare. People don't see it as much, and don't it just doesn't sound the same anymore. Where I think the 5-cylinder will be the last thing that sounds like a V10.
That's fair.
Half of one.
But it sounds very, very, very similar.
Yeah.
I think on RPMs, the way it changes in tones and stuff like that, it's the same. It's the same thing. Matter of fact, the cylinder head is the exact same one you would find on the R8 and Arcon.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who has an R8 V10, and I run with him a lot. And when we go into like a tunnel or somewhere and his car downshifts, and I'm driving a Shelby, which I think already sounds badass, right? And I'm like, man, that just sounds great.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
just sounds different. I think it's like everybody's going to be at V8s right now. I mean, all the McLarens are V8s, now the Lamborghinis V8. Who else are out there? Like,
We're just going to keep slowly deleting cylinders until we're...
that's what's going on. I mean, the Ford GT has been a V6 for the past, 7
Yeah.
years now. Like,
Yeah.
it's... The new C63 AMG is a 4-cylinder.
Stop bringing that up. It makes me sad.
It's the truest reality, and honestly, like, think about that technology that they put on into this thing, which is I know they're gonna sell some. It's gonna be resale value and all that. It's gonna be terrible, but the technology that they developed for this to make the car, being quicker or even more engaging than the previous 663 is insane. And like that technology to an engine like this, the 5-cylinder,
Yeah.
it excites me a lot.
Okay.
Because like the big things about that 4-cylinder, obviously, I mean, I guess the sound, the power delivery, and then the fact that you're saying you have a 4-cylinder in there. I mean, it's just what a 5-cylinder I think has a little more recognitions within the car world. Like people know where there were a 5-cylinder before, or even nowadays, it's different. It's not. It's underrated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like they compete with much bigger engines on the track or on the drag strip. Like it's got a great future.
Well, it makes it easier to implement an all-wheel drive system too, right? Because you can do like an electric assist on the front wheels instead of running a drive shaft and a transfer case and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You're eliminating a lot of stuff,
Right.
for sure. It's got its advantage, and the way we're going, the batteries are going to be smaller. They're going to deliver more power. They're going to hold more power. They'll be able to charge a lot quicker. The engines are going to be more efficient. We're to the point right now where we can do like 0 to 250 miles an hour in one gear.
Wow.
But it's, say that like 20, 25 years ago, even 50 years ago, it was not even possible to be an idea.
Right.
But we figured it out, and it's and people that didn't believe in electric cars, see where we're at right now. I mean, I know it's maybe a little selfish being like on the West Coast here in the US. I don't know how much Teslas we see on the West Coast, on the East Coast, sorry, on the North.
We see
area.
a ton in Minneapolis area.
You do still, yeah, even in the cold.
It's
weather
still
and all
not
that.
nearly as much. Like I've been to like California and in LA.
it's everywhere.
It's like it's every car.
Dude, it's it's. I don't mind it. I think it's it's just a natural path, but it's and at the same time it's kind of scary. Like all the other cars are going away. And
No Ivy League for your kids this year because Tuned by Sean is having a massive Black Friday sale on a mountain of Haltech products. If you want your build ready for the 2025 season, send your little prodigy to community college and take advantage of the 5 to 20% off deals on all types of Haltech goodies. Go to tunedbyshawn.com and check out what it'll take to get your build on the road for the next car season. Let's get back to the show. What goes into the Aero packages you offer? Because we talked about this a little bit off camera. You offer your own upgrades. So you take an already fantastic, phenomenal car. You've obviously shown a ton of love for this platform. How do you make it better?
Aerodynamic wise, there's not much we're going to do for now. Like the next step would actually be putting the car actually on the wind tunnel to see where exactly we're at. And it's going to be a major change, I believe, in the design of the overall design of the car to get to the actual next upgrade level. So I think where it's at right now is just where it's going to be. I think KTM has done a very, very good work on developing the SPX Aero package that they have on with double splitter, double rear wing, louvers, canards. There's a little more like small stuff that are coming with like louvers on the back as well on the later cars. Probably we'll see that like next year or so. But that's just where it sits. I think for now it's already really phenomenal. The shocks were another thing that we discovered that there was a limit right now, and I think those limits are Rollins really. You
mean like there's nothing better past that?
Correct.
Okay.
There's nothing we can buy right now that could be better. Even developing our own stuff would not be better than what they have to offer.
The greatest ever was and never will be. I got it.
That's really where it's at. I mean, it won't be the shock itself that would have to be modified to get any performance out of the suspension component. It would have to be control arms, different uprights, or just less unspring weight. That's probably where it's going to be. So yeah, no. After that, it's just really going to be on the powertrain, and then. Maybe a little more adjustability into like the air command and the way the car steers. Like I feel the car is a little lazy turning, but it's good for most drivers, especially a car that goes this fast. And it's adjustable with an extent, so you have a little bit of that, but a little more will probably be good for some drivers. So especially drivers that come from Formula cars or prototypes, when you jump on a car like this, it feels a little lazier because it still has to mimic or be a GT car. So it has to be comfortable in the way, you have to be able to jump, Yeah, it has to be based on car stuff, like GT car stuff. So we're actually running an RS3 rack still in this. But yeah, no, other than that, there's really not too much.
So how do you get more people into these, right? Because that's obviously your goal here as well.
Yes.
Is it just a matter of people knowing about it? Is it just getting more people to drive it, experiences? I mean, how do we get... I want to see more of these, obviously, even though it's not a street legal form, which, again, we're going to go back to that. Irritates the living hell out of me.
Yep.
But how do you get more people to get into these?
I think you said it all, and I'm not the person really to tell how do you get a product to be known and how do you get it sold. That's really marketing. It's something I'm learning every day, and yeah, I'm not sure I'm really good at it. I'm just sticking to the plan that I love what I do. I love those cars, and I'm just gonna go everywhere and spread the word. Like it's I do podcasts like this. I mean, this is a great opportunity. I came to the point with my business coach to understand how we actually sold those first cars and where we're at right now. And it happened to be that it's always at a racetrack during some events. So we came to the conclusion that we have to create our own events right now. Okay. And I think that's what we're working on right now. I originally wanted to do like a crossbow track weekend where we invite all the owners, in the entire country, probably even Europe, if there's anybody who wants to fly in any cars and come with us. And create like a unique event where we do different kind of races, different kind of activations or whatsoever. Maybe join a series already that works, and we make some KTM only. But the more we're heading towards this, I think the more I'm creating restrictions for people to come. If you don't have a KTM, well, you probably won't feel comfortable coming to a KTM
There's
event.
that too. Yeah, I can see that.
Even though we want to invite people that don't have KTMs, but again, if the flyer looks like it's just a KTM only weekend. Like if I see like a Porsche weekend only, I'm not gonna try to come with my KTMs to start with, and so I have to approach that differently. And I think we're heading towards creating them more like a track weekend, where it's anything that can go on a track, and the KTM's are the absolute track toy at the end of the day. I think there's no more than that, or MG1 or all those kind of cars will be there.
That's
as well.
about like 10 times the price, though.
Yeah,
so,
or even more than
out.
that. It's. I think that's one way we'll be able to do it, but create it in a way that it's unique and attractive. I want people to say, oh yeah, we got to go to these events, like wherever they go, to try to get again brand awareness, that and also try to go set some records here and there.
I think, and this is just speculation, right? Like when you get, you don't have to necessarily work with like an influencer like Shmee or something like that, but or like CarWow. I love watching CarWow videos because it's always like a direct comparison. Like, what's this car do? Or like even Haggerty, when they take 3 cars, like what was it, the BMW, the GT3 RS, and I think it was some silly Mustang or something. I can't remember. But
no, they're doing great. Yeah, no, those things are I love.
But
them.
a comparison, right? Like, dude, if you were to take, I keep calling you dude. It's kind of hilarious.
No, it's great. I think I'm a dude.
I never say dude.
You're in America now, right? What the hell, yeah.
Just hear bald eagles in back. But no, if you were to go like rent a track day and get friends across the industry to bring out like 296 cars, like equal competitors.
I think you need to go to those Porsche events and blow them out of the water is what you need to do.
Well, we've done that.
The reason that the GT500, and you'll see this in an episode that was released before this technically, the reason that the DCT isn't a new GT500 is because somebody drove a Porsche. That is 100% the reason why. So my point being is like you got to get this, you got to benchmark it, man. That's the biggest thing, man.
I agree, and it's so hard, and sometimes like benchmark against what? Like, I reached out to a few, car reviewers, and there was always this. It was the same questions, like, okay, well, it's great to do a review on a car like this, but we got to be able to compare it to something. Right. So we're thinking about the Corvette C01. Where even the Z06 would probably be a better track car. I don't know. I would have to look more into it, but yeah, those are great stuff. But in the same time, like. It's not street legal, so it's not.
It's going to be an uphill battle until we see them on the street. Yeah, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, but also your customer here is the track toy people, right? So get other track toys.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, track event.
Yeah, and then eventually throw them behind a seat. I don't know. I'm going in ideas mode during a podcast. Yeah. It's a problem.
There's a lot of innovation that we can do, and I know and I join you on that too. Like it's how do you do it? Because same thing. They're not street legal, so they're race cars, but they're also not exactly eligible for the most races that we can do here, like IMSA. We can't race IMSA with those cars, so we limit it to SRO and any other type of like club level racing. That's how the SEC and NASA. So it's not like so glamorous, we're still limited on what we can race. So
true.
I think it's a new product, and it needs to have a new platform, a new type of racing, a newer type of race weekend. What Great Life, for example, is doing, amazing. I think there's a huge future with the type of event that Great Life is putting out there. It's not just a race weekend. It's not just a bunch of sponsors and manufacturers that shows up and do a racing show and that's it. It's a lot more to that. There's a lot more culture that goes to it. There's concerts, there's vendors, there's... honestly, I see more people going to the Great Life event than some of those, IMSA or SRO race weekends. And I see more people having more fun on those events. I personally would go to a Great Life event more than an IMSA now.
Really?
And I've done the both.
We haven't been to one yet, though. That's on my list for next year. I want to do the Road America one if I can. So. And
it's fun. I mean, you can tell that it's been out for a very long time. They came a long way, and the TV coverage is amazing and all that. But it became to like just a different level. I almost enjoy more looking at a YouTube live feed for Grid Life and everything they have to show than an IMSA race weekend. I think it's just the older generation.
Yeah.
And it's just different. Because also IMSA, obviously, you have manufacturers that are competing, they're representing themselves there, and that comes to a cost too. Like right now, for example, even if the KTM would qualify to be a GT3 car, we don't have the IMSA manufacturers partnership paid, so we can't compete. Like we'd have to come up with a big check just to be able to compete with other cars, and it's just pure money. It has nothing to do with homologations or whatsoever.
Right.
Where other events like Grid Life is how racing used to be. Build a car in your backyard or whatever with your friends, and then just go race at different levels. Like even this are eligible. Like
I think I saw someone build one of these in a backyard actually one time.
Hey, that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's literally.
Yeah.
Damn it! He joked my joke.
Do you guys have like Nürburgring ring times or anything like that?
Not
or?
disclosed, yeah.
Okay.
We I don't know why exactly it's not disclosed just yet. There is or it's never been. How can I say that? Something that KTM realizes, okay, this is something we can brag about yet. It hasn't been to that level just yet. I don't think. I think they're still pushing the boundaries of this car with different drivers, different teams, different environment, and it's still to the points where we don't want to like spread it out too much.
Right.
I think this is where we are. This is what this car is about because there's so much more we can do, I think. And that's why like nowhere on social media you will see anything like work related with Aero Motorsport, for example. It's nowhere neither on their page or on our page and anywhere. We try to get the result to talk other than just like bragging about everything we do. You know,
Right.
It's like the kind of like the old way, and that's the way we have to do it as well because we're working with a manufacturer. We have to respect what they want to release as well. So yeah, I'm talking about a lot of stuff here. I'm probably not supposed to, but it's
It's
the
okay.
direct
You got
truth.
3 weeks to tell me what you want to
You-
cut.
Right.
You want to walk the walk before you talk the talk. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
100%. And it's frustrating in a way.
Yeah.
Especially running a business where you have to give results to investors, you have to give results to even fans or even potential buyers. That's just money waiting for you. And you're like, yeah, no, I'll give you the result whenever I can.
Yeah.
Well, as we wind down here, is there any other things that we kind of want to touch on before we pop our usual 3?
Usual 3s, I remember those.
Yeah.
See if they
coming.
changed. Oh wow, I didn't even think about those. No, I mean it's we're coming up hopefully in 2025 with exciting stuff between the Power Upgrades, the GTX Rs, and the Track Toys track weekend, which would be like a pretty unique format. Like I'd like to do like a 3-day thing, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where there's an unloading and winding. Everybody gets to meet each other. We're at the racetrack. Saturday will be a day where we'll all practice. And I'd like to do something like on a Sunday where we have like bracket races. You guys know what a bracket race is? It's basically a bracket race. It doesn't matter your skills behind the wheel. It doesn't matter the power, the performance of your car. You pick a time that you want. You would see that actually in Gran Turismo a lot. They do that a lot with different cars. They take one manufacturer. They took all the cars that manufacturer made from the race car to the small little car. And then the small little car starts first, for the lap that it can do. And then the second car starts the amount of time difference lap time wise that it can do. And basically at the end of the race, every single car should be at the line at the same time.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? But if you manage your race properly, the thing is, if you pick a time, let's say you go to a racetrack and the average time is a minute 50, you're capable of doing like 152 constantly. You choose like 150, 153. If you go faster than your 152, you get disqualified right away. But if you keep on being consistent with your lap time, you're getting closer to the cars ahead of you because you're quicker. You're getting there little by little, and behind you is the same thing. There's probably going to be a car that's quicker than you too. But if you can manage that, and also like, let's say you're getting to a car ahead of you that's slower, you can try to go quicker to pass it, but slow down a little bit after, so you make sure you're not passing your lap
Right.
time. So then it's very interesting to me because it doesn't matter the speed of your car, your driver skills, as long as you have a good lap timer in the car, you can be competitive. Everybody can be competitive.
That's really cool.
And
It's
it-
almost like a handicap in golf, kind of, right? Maybe.
Maybe I'd have to know more about that, but
I don't know anything about golf. I just hear the word handicap in golf, and people say +5, and
yeah, maybe there's something like that. But at that point, you can have Miatas racing with those kind of cars and all that, and
Right.
that's what we've been seeing also with track toys. Like, well, Miata I think is a great little track toy. Most of them are like right off the bat, and this is the extreme, the other extreme. So, but yeah, the bracket race can allow all of that, and it's competitive for anybody. There's really after a race like this, there's none of like, well, he's got this or he cheated or whatever. None of that can happen. You don't deal with BOP. You don't deal with any of the crap that we see nowadays. That is kind of like annoying and killing the sport, in my opinion. So I think we'll put something like that together, and possibly like an actual race also, a wheel to wheel, like not brackets, the qualification and all that. And so we can see, a concentration on track toys, some track cars too. Like we'll have as much as we can. Just some kind of event like this with track days and also like a little bit of racing. That's why we'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, these things are cool, man. I would love to hop in one of these. It's just so different than anything. Like I've been in some built cars, but something like this is very different, especially when you get to the road course side of things. It's G's in a different direction for me.
Yeah, G's, the braking, like everything, even the sound. Like it's even in the sound of the car inside the cockpit. It's amazing. It's that rumble.
It's a rear. Is it rear or mid engine? Mid engine.
Rear engine.
Oh, it's rear engine.
Rear engine. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a rear engine RS3 basically.
Yeah. No, it's not 4-wheel drive. So
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
It's there's a little bit of everything. For me, there's a little bit of Lotus in there. The axle, rear axle like that. Even Lotus, use a 4-cylinder or V6, but it's kind of the same build at the end of the day. Same configuration. There's a little bit of McLaren. There's a little bit of Lamborghini. There's a little bit of good stuff in there.
Well, I hope not McLaren reliability.
No, we don't
on that one.
But none of the McLaren reliability in this. No, if there's any such thing. So,
I got one more quick question for you. Mm-hmm. As a Mustang owner and a race car enthusiast, what are your thoughts on the GTD?
Wow, I want to drive one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, Ford is adapting to a market right now. Everybody's kind of coming up with those new things. I think they're going to be called something else, not hypercars. KTM came up with the super sports car. That's how they're calling their GTX R, which makes sense. It's not exactly a supercar. It's not a hypercar. And what defines that also, it's really relative. Everybody has a different definition for it. So, but yeah, I think the GTD is the GT350 of the modern GT350, what Carl Shelby made back then in the 60s. That's what Ford is doing right now with that car. It's pushing the boundaries. I like it.
Okay. Maybe a swapping keys episode in the future.
Yeah.
Even though I would never own I don't like to say never, but I do not like the GT500 as much. I think there's better cars out there for the price.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to hear the answer to this. What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, anything that's lighter, really, because I feel like the GT500 is trying to be like that track car, but it's just, I don't know, it's so heavy. It's not really a good driver car, and it's not the fastest car in the world either. Like it's a weird bracket. How does it compete for drag racing, the GT500? Because at the time, the GT500 was for drag racing.
They do pretty good. It's just the problem is the bar for drag racing now is like, 5 seconds now? I mean, it's getting down to where it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, a few bolt-ons and stuff, you can get a GT500 into the 8s pretty easy, which is fast, right? But not nowadays fast.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's a hard time to be in somewhere. Yeah,
right, yeah.
That's my point. Well, the GT350, well, there's a list of things that you cannot find on other cars. A crisp manual transmission only, no automatic rev matching. You don't have any of that. Like a driver that drives this, and I'm trying to stay modest, but it is a driver, or someone want to be a driver or considers himself a good driver, or not a driver. It's a driver's car.
Yes.
What if 500 again? It's automatic. It's heavy. I think Mercedes makes the same kind of things. BMWs as well. They're sell cars just like I don't like BMWs, but I think I would own an M4 over a GT500.
Yeah.
It's the new M4?
Yeah.
That is an aggressive take.
Well, the new. Wait,
I mean, the previous generation.
Which one is the new one? Is it the G80s, right?
The G80s, yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Those things are also pigs, though.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they're quicker and more fun to drive.
What about an M2?
Yeah, probably.
The M2s are.
But it's not the same category. I think with the M2s are like a little lower than the GT500.
Fair enough.
Size-wise, category of cars.
Yeah, the M4 styling is... I don't mind the M3 with the big snout. The M4 styling makes me...
Well, the M3, I consider the same.
The M3s are
like
amazing.
2 doors,
My old co-host, who is no longer with us on this podcast because he decided to move to California. I told you about this.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a 890 wheel horsepower G80 M3, and that thing's a blast. Just amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking to them more and more, and everybody that knows me knows how much I almost hate or boycott BMWs because I just don't like the way they sound.
These Daza guys, man.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, I'm not just a Daza guy. I mean, you see what else I drive. It's just I have an RS5 as well. I just love the way this thing look, but I know I'll be blown away every single day with the direct RS5 comparison was BMW, whatever it is. I think it will be the M4 at that point. But it's just a different category. But I would like to know what it is. I'm more and more interested in the ownership of an M3 right now. For example, the GT, the 4-wheel drive, was the way you can actually put it back in 2-wheel drive and drift it around the way you want. And it, I don't know, 10-stage traction control system you can get on this car. This is like race car stuff. Like we have as many traction control set up on the race cars right now.
He can, I will say, Sean can monitor his tire temperature and all of that stuff too, as well inside the car.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite insane. As as a techie and an engineer, I think I'll probably be happy with playing around with that.
It's a damn good car.
Yeah.
And I think the styling's grown on me.
What is it?
The styling's grown on me too.
Yeah.
The only one that hasn't grown on me is the M4. I'm a little skeptical.
I know. I would have to look at it again, but I've surprised myself a few times being on the road and like be surprised by a car. And I think it was an M3 CS or probably one of the higher spot. Like looking at this thing coming to you was really aggressive. Like it's wow. Well, it used to be the Audis that do that a lot to me, and now I've surprised myself again. With this BMW. I need to look into it a little more because BMW obviously developed that engine for the Supra. I believe it's called the B58.
Yeah, yep.
Did they put that car in the newer M3?
So it's the S58 and the M3s.
It's S still, okay.
Yeah, so from my understanding, and I might get crucified for this, it's okay, but it's basically a beefed up B58 for the most part.
Okay.
From my understanding.
But it doesn't sound the same. Like there's something going on with either turbo geometry.
Don't buy that car for the sound. It is...
No, but the Supra sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know what it... Well, it also depends what you do, right? Like for example, like if you go Hellcats and you do like a mid-muff delete, it doesn't sound too bad. You do a straight pipe, it's disgustingly awful. Same thing with the S58 or the M3s. You make a few bad decisions there, it's one of the worst sounding...
Right. Like, I'm not crazy. Yeah.
We're talking worse than VQ. I will make that claim right now.
Oh, you don't like VQ the way they sound?
It depends on how you do it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I've heard
100% true.
I heard one with 4 resonators. Somebody put 4 resonators in there, and it sounded way better.
Yeah, I could believe that.
So, I don't know. But it's a great car. I'm curious to see where your pick 3 goes. Do you want to pop the usual 3?
Yeah, I was thinking this feels like a good transition now, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about
different cars too.
I'll let you debate it a little bit.
All right. So
did it change from last year?
I don't remember his pick 3 from last year, but we'll see.
No. But the question is the same thing. Pick 3, like show car, daily.
Yeah. Were you trying to take my job?
He's asking himself the question.
So at the end of every episode, we like to ask our guests to pick 3 cars: track car, daily driver, and show car. You can pick whatever you want, unlimited budget, build whatever you want, put a DAZA in whatever you need.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But track car, it'll be one of those for sure.
Yeah.
Our latest build for sure was everything you can throw at it. Suspension, aero package, turbo, like whatever you want. Like
the GTX.
Well, at that point, it will probably won't be a GTX anymore. But yeah, it will be based on the GTX with all the upgrades we're putting on. Like let's call it we call actually the Evo cars, like the GT2 Evo. So that's hands down is gonna be the track car for me. Show car. I'll probably be the last one. My daily. Those questions are so hard.
I know.
They're so hard.
That's how we get airtime.
Right.
It takes a while to answer.
Yeah, it takes a long time because you gotta back those ideas up a little bit, like why it becomes that way. But let's be reasonable. I mean, I've got kids right now, so daily there's a lot more standards that has to come. It has to be a 4-door. I have to have some kind of room. Man, I have an RS5 now, and I think it's a great everyday car. Like, it's got plenty of room. The hatch in the back, also you can put so much stuff in it, and I'm really happy with it. So probably be that car, the RS5.
Okay.
Not the newer ones, because I don't think they're gonna make a newer one anyway. And then a show car.
You wouldn't do like an RS6 Savant or something?
Because of unlimited money, yes, you're right.
Okay.
But I think the RS6 Savant is the only Audi that holds its value so well. But I had an SQ7 that was basically an RS6, like for half the price after a year. Was basically exactly the same V8, the same transmission, same suspension system, 4-wheel steering, everything you had on the RS6, it was on the SQ7, and in the same time you have a little more room and comfort.
So you wouldn't do a BMW M3 Touring?
That's interesting. I'm
going through my whole glossary.
I don't know. It's good for the health. I really don't look at cars as much as I used to anymore. I'm so deep into the racing stuff that I kind of lost track of like what's available even right now.
So you're just ready for a Toyota Camry and call it good or what? Yeah.
No, but we're not too far away. I mean, I'm super happy with a Tesla for commuting every day. Like the fact that you can program your thing, you leave every day at 8 or whatever, the cabin is up to temperature every day. I don't see a lot of other cars that can do that. But my updates on what's available is very limited right now, so I would have to be corrected if I'm saying wrong. But the way they have their system, it's just the everyday comfort that you can have with the Teslas nowadays. Never have to put gas in them, and
So you're locking in a Tesla then?
for what? For a
daily?
For a daily? For a commuter.
But you get daily.
yeah, daily on it, because I use the daily also to go to the racetrack, in different states, and I had a Tesla at that point, and I had a horrible experience where, I didn't charge it at a racetrack, and I had to go back home early, and
Oh, yikes!
And it was I think it was a Thanksgiving weekend or whatever, and all the superchargers were packed, and it took me 8 hours instead of 4 to go back home, and it's like, all right, I can do full electric cars.
Yeah.
To go to for a daily, like it can be like my one car, so it'd have to be a gas car or a hybrid. I don't know. Yeah, just for the sake of the RS5 is a great car. I'll just like it.
RS5, you're not gonna do RS6?
Oh my God. Can we stop this?
RS5 and a half.
RS5 and a half. All right, show car.
Oh man, show car.
I remember your answer. I'm curious to see what you're gonna do.
You remember my answer from last year?
It just came back to me. Yeah.
It was a KTM. All 3 of them were KTM.
Mm-mm.
No?
Mm-mm.
Really? What was it for
Well,
last
I'll
year?
let you come up with your first answer, and I'll remind you.
Oh man, show car. That's something I'm so not into. I'm not a show car person at all. But
Well, show cars just don't have to be parked. They can be
Right.
showy and fun to drive.
right, but it's something on show. So I guess the GTX R. I mean, it's
Okay.
a good looking car.
You want to know what your answer was last year?
Yeah, what was it? Remind me.
It was that R34, the special.
the C-Tune. Yeah, the Yepo spec. Yes, I remember now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Which is basically like a suit up Z-Tune, that they've done.
Mhm.
In the wrong time, unfortunately. I wish if they were doing that right now, that company would be crazy. Mm-hmm. We were basically doing, just to give you like a refresh on that, is when I was in Europe, right before I actually went to racing school, or in between, or right before, I went in an internship at a place called CJ Motorsport then in Germany, and they were rebuilding R34s from scratch. Like they were taking everything apart, reinforcing everything, and putting every single bolts were brand new titanium. Anything you could think to rebuild a car was the best components, they were doing it. They were buying parts for Nismo, buying engines from Tomei. They put Alcantara in the inside. The Alcantara they used was the same as Aston Martin used to use at the time. It's just best of the best for everywhere. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, you find yourself with a JDM car that's still not eligible here for the US, big market, because no one can drive those here just yet. At a price point that's close to $1 million, and can't drive it. It's like, and no one wanted it. Like it was not. Now the kids, us, I guess, that dreamed those cars when we were kids, we saw on it become an icon in the movies and in the video games that we watch. Now we're grown up. Some of us made money, and we see more of a market for those cars. Yeah. But back then, that company kind of went down because no one wanted to buy those cars. There was just no one ready, Fortunately, because it was such a good build.
Yeah, those are really cool.
I'll have to look one up. That sounds.
Just look at the highlight from last year. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was properly built. It was well done. Beautiful car, and it's. I mean, if you know a bit about the Z-Tune, Nismo was buying cars out of owners, low miles cars, and they were building them as well. Not as pronounced as what CJ Motorsport was doing, but it was still like very astonishing, like how the car would come out after that. Is 700-800 horsepower. Lots more downforce, better brakes. I mean, it was very good upgrades straight from the factory in a way. Mm-hmm. But it was still built the Japanese way, cheap interior, just the way it needs to be, and that's it. No more than that. And it got Germanized, I guess, with that company where there's just a little more luxury to it, and it's it was just to enter a different market, Mm-hmm. And I think it was just the wrong timing. And Bene, if you hear this, the owner of CJ Motorsports, we're still in contact. We still try to work together on some different stuff. But yeah, if we can do that again, maybe here in the US, I think it would work. But would have to generate the interest. But I think the interest is already there. I mean, we start seeing a lot more R34s from even people that would never thought they would be interested in JDM cars. They see, I think, what people are really have to say about that car specifically and the Skylines in general. And
So is this kind of like what Singer does with
yes,
the Porsches?
the Porsches,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
very, 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 very similar to that.
Okay.
Only to the R34 platform though, and they've done also some stuff on the Evo cars, the Mitsubishi Evo.
Okay.
And then they were doing also Nostalgia, the wagon version of the R34. Same thing with the Evo and Mitsubishi Evo. They're doing the same thing. We're building Tamatech cars like that too. But yeah, good times. I learned a lot
Just
of stuff there.
memory lane there.
Yeah,
Wait, so what was the pick again? We went so far out.
yeah. The RE6 Avant. No,
Yeah.
just not. I didn't make it.
So wait, you don't want a Jeep Wagoneer?
No.
But anyways, on that note, where can people find you?
We're doing a lot of Instagram. We updated our website as well now, so you can see more about like the specs of the cars, and you can actually also put a deposit down to be on the list to get a either GTX, GT2, or GTX R.
Oh, cool.
We have that up into our website right now, just with a credit card. Yeah, Facebook, we're a little bit on that too, and hopefully by the next year you'll hear about us in the event, Track Toys event we're trying to put together. And that's really comes down to the fun of it, because I find myself like so deep into creating a business and be successful in a business that I lost track of actually having fun with race cars.
Yeah.
And it's always trying to find a way to make more money, to just try to stay open the next month and stay open for the longest time, and then you just lose the fun. So going back on track, I think, is our biggest priority right now, and we believe we're going to generate interest from people joining us and see how fun those cars are, and they will want to get one for themselves. I think it's the best way than trying to see, hey, just believe me, that car is amazing, just buy it right now.
Seeing is
Yeah,
believing,
doesn't
man. That's all there is.
It doesn't work, and I'm not expecting people to react well like that. It's drive it, come with me, come on a ride.
Okay, toss me the keys. Let's go hit the road.
No keys,
It's
race car.
Yeah. Dan?
You can find us at Gun It Garage. We're gonna try and post some SEMA content as soon as my wife gets here and starts running the social page.
Yeah, project manager.
Yeah.
That's important.
Got a garage with 2 ends.
Yeah.
And I'll just do it for you this time. It's
Thanks.
fine, bud.
That sounds good.
And as for me, guys, you guys made it this far into the episode. Sign up for a newsletter. I'll get you a free sticker. Check out our sponsors, of course. And Simon, thank you very much for making this happen. This is super cool that we got to come out here
Thanks for coming
and see
here,
where the
yeah.
magic happens. Dan, thanks for existing, and we'll see y'all next time.